Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I'm here to talk to you about this game. It is called Province Deluxe. Now, Province Deluxe is a two-player Euro game where each person is going to be moving workers around this kind of small rondel and earning labor and coins. And with those labor and coins, you're going to be building structures and completing goals that are going to earn you victory points. Now, it sounds kind of generic right there, but I was very pleasantly surprised with this game as far as the strategy behind it and also just how deep it was for what a simple set of mechanics that are used to play the game. So let me show you how the game is played and kind of just describe the board and all the different actions that you can do. And then we'll come back here and I'll tell you more about why I have enjoyed playing Province Deluxe. Alright, awesome. Alright, this is Province Deluxe. Now, the big difference between the Deluxe version, and the older version is, the older version, actually, you could have the whole thing in just a little baggie like this. And so, you can notice that the components, there were no, like, little wooden meeples and whatever like that. And, you know, those are just tokens. And the big thing is that the game board was just this little... here you can kind of see the difference. You know, the game board was that, and functionally the game remains the same. However, now you actually have a little bit more room to move your way around. Before it was a pocket game, now it's like kind of like a micro game instead of a pocket game. Also, this has a double-sided board, and so on the other side you can play a slightly different game with different buildings and different actions that you can do. So that's kind of neat that, like, if you can decide which side you want to play depending upon the choice between the two players. And you can play once on one side and play on the other side if you so desire. So anyway, regardless, to play the game it's rather simple. It's one of those wonderful simple but deep games that I really, really enjoy. So the basic mechanism is that you're going to have 3 workers on these 3 spots. And those are communal workers, the green workers are. And then each person's going to have other workers that either, like by building certain buildings, they're going to put on the board and then they're both going to have access to, and those are these 3 over here. Now technically this nobleman is only used on the other side of the board, but the camp worker and the village worker, that are those 2, do come into play on this side of the board. The nobleman, which is this guy, comes into play on the building that's called the keep on the other side of the board. So to play the game, what you're going to do on your turn is you are going to take workers that are on the board that you have access to, and you're going to move them one space in this clockwise fashion. And when you move it, so to there, you look and see you've earned a labor by moving to that spot. And you can, and then a good rule of thumb is when you move it, lay them down like so you can show that you've moved them, because you can only move a worker once. And you don't have to move all of them, though. If you don't want to move one because you just don't need the extra labor or what have you, you can leave them whereas. Also, the fact is that you have to kind of plan ahead for what the other person's going to be doing and moving the workers. And so if your forethought states that I don't want to move this guy because I'm going to want to have this person move it to this location, because you want that, to make sure that you can get the worker to here or what have you. There's all kinds of things like that. Like, you can plan ahead as far as where you think the workers might end up on your next turn. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, you might notice that there's these 3 blue and 3 red workers on each side. Those are sailors on this side, and on the reverse side there's soldiers. And if you build the harbor on this side, and on the opposite side here, I'll get that out. On the opposite side is the tavern. You have the option, possibly, each turn to be able to build or basically hire a worker by rolling this die. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but and I'll explain that in just a moment, but that is how those 2 work. So on your turn, what you'll do is you'll move your workers. Like if you're the first person to go, you move here, and then you'd earn a coin for that, and so then you take a coin from the supply. Just so you know, you do start, if you're the first player, you start with 2 coins. If you're the other player, you start with 3 coins. And so then you move this guy here, you take a labor, so you're going to take a cube to show you have labor, and then move him here, and then you should lay them all down and earn another labor. And so on the first turn, if this is the first player, by moving all the workers, you would gain 3 coin. You'd have 2 coins to start with, so you get an extra coin and you have 2 labor. Now, labor doesn't stay with you per turn. You have to use it up or it goes away. So at this point, what you can do is you'd have to build a building. And to build a building, you can see, like, smithy takes 5 labor and 5 money to build it. But also, you'll see this little arrow here. You have to build the mill before you can build the smithy. And like you also see what it gives you. The mill will just give you an extra labor each turn for free, just for having it. So you over here, the lender takes 2 labor and 2 coins, and then you have to build that to then get to the bank. And over here you have to build the camp to get to the village, and then you have to build the union to get to the harbor. And so all these have different abilities that you can get. Just kind of quickly going through, the bank gives you an extra money. The lender gives you access to the lender token. At first, the lender token is just set off to the side. Nobody has access to it. But if you pay, you can pay to take, when you take the lender token, what you will do is it allows you to use somebody else's building that they've built. But if you have the lender token in your possession at the end of the game, it's worth -2 victory points. So, but the other player can take it from you if you have the lender token. If they built the lender building, they might take it from you because they need to, because they want to copy one of your buildings. You can't copy a building you already have, but like if you just have it and you say, okay, I had the lender token, I'm going to copy your mill or whatever to get that extra labor, you can have it. If you want to, on your turn, you can pay 3 coins and then you can get rid of the lender token as well, and then it goes to kind of a neutral spot. The camp gives you access to the camp worker. So then when the camp worker is off to the side, then the camp worker comes in and sits right in the top labor portion. And then as long as if you've built the building for the camp, and when you build a building, I should say, you just take a building and you put it to the side like that. Just pretty simple. And then if you're the second person to build it, you just take and you put yours there to show that you've built it as well. So, but if you have access to the camp, then you can move the camp worker. If you don't, you can't move that meeple. Same goes for the village worker. When you have the village, you can put that there, and then they start moving around the board as well. The union allows you to spend 2 coins to gain 1 labor, and the harbor opens up your ability to roll this die and see what you get at the beginning of your turn. Now, before I show you that, just quickly, you can, on the bottom here, you can always do what's called a grind. And that means you can take 2 labor that you've earned, and you can earn a coin for spending 2 labor, which is something you might end up doing with your excess labor that you're not going to use anyway, because remember, coins stay with you, but you can't keep the labor in between turns. Now, the one important thing is with the money, it is finite. With the money that's out here to begin the game, it runs out. So if you were to earn money that doesn't exist out there, you can't take it. Now, you can force the other player to make change, because like these are worth 5 and this platinum coin's worth 10. So if somebody's sitting on 5 ones and you were going to earn money that doesn't exist, you can force them to trade in that 5 to get a gold coin. So, but if you can't earn the money because it's gone, you can't earn the money. Now, one last thing, and I'll tell you how the game ends. You might have noticed these little tokens up here. These are, and there's a little victory point token as well on the top of it. Those are the goals of the game. There are 9 of them. You will pick 5 of them randomly, and then you turn them face down, like so. So let's just take the first 5, just kind of show that. Then you get rid of the other ones, and you remove them from the game. And then you take these, and you put them in a stack. Like so. And then the top one you turn over, and you show what it is. Now, the first person to earn that goal, this is having access to 2 extra workers, besides the ones that you start with, the green ones, gets that. And you take that token and you keep it. And as soon as that's earned, then you turn over the next one, and so on and so forth. And this one is earn 5 labor in a turn, and so on and so forth. Now, some of these things are things like, if you, like, maybe the 5th one was that earn that 2 the 2 extra workers, it's quite possible when you turn it over, somebody's already done that, in which case they'll claim it, unless it is a token that both of the people have earned prior to you flipping it over. So if you flipped it over and both people had access to those two meeples, then you would just toss it aside and turn over the next one. And so, which is kind of interesting because one of the ways that the game can end is if all 5 of these gold tokens have been given out or removed from play, which can, like, it can actually, the game can speed up and end really quickly because of the fact that you just go through them because they're things that people have already earned. Another way the game can end is if somebody has built all of their buildings. So they've placed a building on each of those locations. And it should be mentioned that there is a victory point token for each of these buildings, and the person that first builds the building is the one that earns that money. Or not money, earns those victory points. But if you are the second person, you don't get anything. You still get access to the spot, but you don't get any victory points at the end of the game. And an easy way to tell who's got the victory point is that whoever's got the first building alongside that action, or alongside that space. Now, there's one last thing here, and this isn't on this side of the board. This is the guild token. If you have access to the guild, and I'll just take these off real quick and I'll show you. Over here, just quickly, you can see that there's some things that you're going to recognize from the other side. You know, it has the lender. It has this guild here, which I'll explain in a second. But you can see the office earns you extra money. Treasury earns you extra money. This still has the village, but the fields are an interesting thing. If you'll notice, there's a little dot there. If you have the fields and you're the person that you have a house over on this side, every time a worker lands on this spot, you earn an extra production. So so as they're going around, they don't earn 1 production, they're going to earn 2 in that location. As I said, the keep will give you access to the nobleman. The nobleman's good because it basically, he adds 1 to whatever he does. So if you land here, it's worth 2. If you land here, it's worth 2 money. If you go here, it doesn't double it. It doesn't go from 2 to 4, but you do get 3 labor if you have the fields and the nobleman and the land on that spot. And finally, the tavern allows you to hire soldiers as opposed to sailors that were on the other side. Now, the way that works, at the beginning of your turn, you'll roll this die. As long as you've built the tavern, or on the other side you built the harbor, you'll roll this die. And when you roll it, and if you get a meeple side on that, if you spend 3 coins, you can then take one of your sailors or soldiers and place it in that location on the board. Then you now have an extra worker that you can move around that can earn you labor or coins on your turn. Once there are 3 sailors or soldiers on the board, no more can be hired. So it's important to get those out there, because if you can manage to get all 3 of them, then obviously, the other person's not going to have access to that. But that's pretty rare. That doesn't happen very often. But obviously you can't move somebody else's soldier or sailor. You can only move your color. Alright, so the game will continue until one of 3 possible game-ending conditions is met, and I may have misspoken earlier, I apologize for that, but one of the ways is if one of each of the building is built by anybody. So once all 8 spaces have a building on each side, then the game will end. If you get through all of these tokens, these 5 tokens, the game ends. If one person managed to build 7 structures, because you have 7 houses over here, the game ends. If at that point whoever's turn is the game is going to end, and they do get to finish their turn. So if it's one of those things where they get a gold token and then you flip over a bunch before the game is completely end, they do get to do their completed final turn, and then you total the victory points. You get victory points for your gold tokens, and you get victory points if you're the first person to build the different structures. Then whoever has the most points wins. If you have equal number of points, then it is whoever has the most structures wins. If you have equal structures, it goes to workers, and if it's equal workers, then you tie. So, and money doesn't even come into it. I found that interesting, actually, that money wasn't a tiebreaker. But there you go. That should give you a really good idea of how to play Province. Like I said before, at the very beginning, this is one of those simple but deep games I'm really digging, but I'll talk more about that in my conclusion, which I will do right now. Alright, thank you very much for taking the time to learn how to play Province Deluxe. Alright, so I'll be honest, I didn't know of the game when it was in that smaller micro version. I hadn't played it, and I really wish I had, because whenever I stumble across a game like this, one of these kind of diamond in the rough type games that I didn't know about, I'm always kind of annoyed that I didn't know of its existence, because I could have been spending a lot of time playing it before, too, right? So, the cool thing about the game is that it is just, there's one rule, basically. Move the worker, You can move it once and then collect the resource. That's all it is. There's one rule to this game. You could literally teach this game to somebody in 5 minutes. Other than just saying this is what you do. You move the worker and you collect that resource. The rest of it is just having that piece of paper that tells you, okay, that's what the fields do. That's what the keep does. That's what the village does. That sort of thing. That's all it is. But there's so much to the game as well that you're really surprised the first time you play it. At least I was. Just because of the fact that placing the workers and getting them into the spots that you want them to be, and also placing them in a way that you're kind of jamming somebody. Because the one thing about the game is that you need like kind of an equal representation of your resources. Now, especially like if you're playing on this side of the board, like this side has the union, so like you can trade money in for labor, but over here you don't have that capability. So this side's kind of nasty in a way, because you can kind of force workers to be in this spot right here, and so like the option for the person is that they only can go and get money, you know, and so like they don't really have a good way to convert that cash into labor, because you need, like I said, you need to kind of juggle both sides and kind of keep an even amount. And I like that. I you know, truth be told, I mean, this is kind of like the lighter version, if you will, in my opinion. I mean, and the game does move a little faster. I mean, you know, the buildings themselves don't cost as much, you know, as they are on this side, but like I play this with my buddies and I play this with my daughter, so there you go. But I've actually started playing this with my daughter and she enjoys it. So regardless, this is one of those things where the game has like that hidden depth, that peeling of the onion that I sincerely greatly enjoy. And you know, and because it is like a smaller game, only on just one of those that one mechanism that goes on. You know, it is something where this is the throw it in my backpack and take it to my job type of game. I played this at my job over lunch, and it's highly enjoyable. It's one of those things also that I really enjoy about games like this is the fact that you as the players determine how quickly the game wraps up. I mean, there isn't like this is 5 turns. This is one of those things where as you slowly go, so you're always kind of putting yourself in a position you can see how many victory points you have. There's no hidden victory points. You know how many points you have in comparison to the other person. You can see that, and then you're not only planning on how to get ahead and how to score those points, but also like how can I score those points, get ahead, and then wrap the game up to make sure that, you know, the game is over and I'm still in the lead when it's over. And there's lots of times when I played knowing full well that I'm going to end up being tied, and then I'm actually looking at the tiebreakers and trying to make sure that I'm winning the tiebreakers. It's one of those things where you know, it definitely is going to scratch that wanting to play a Rondel type resource gathering game in, you know, about 20 minutes. It doesn't take that long to play, but it is a very, very satisfying amount of time. I love the phrase, there's a lot of game in this tiny little box, but there is a lot of game in this tiny little box. And I'd strongly suggest that if you are a fan of these types of games, you check out Province Deluxe. So there you go. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate that. If you have any questions about Province, go ahead and ask away. I'll answer those to the best of my ability. And as always, it is me, the Undead Viking, and I'm going to tell you at this time to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, take care now.